All right, so today we're gonna dive deep into something I think everybody has to deal with, and that is fear. Not just like the there's a spider kind of fear, but the kind of fear that really like grips us and holds us back in life.
Yeah.
And we're going to be working with some excerpts from a text that dives into the nature of fear and how to navigate the world with more courage and a lot less anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, it really challenges how we think about fear.
Yeah, it really does. One of the first things that grabbed me from this text was this idea of don't let fear control you. You know, and the text is really direct about this idea of facing our fears head on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all heard that before. But this text, it takes it a little bit deeper, and it uses this really interesting analogy of a psychotherapist treating a patient in a psychotic state.
Yeah. What's interesting is how it emphasizes the therapist's need to stay calm, because the text argues that fear is contagious. So if the therapist freaks out, the patient will pick up on that and things can spiral.
Right. You're saying it's not just about, you know, keeping a stiff upper lip, but it's more about cultivating this deeper inner calmness, you know, even when things are really intense.
Absolutely.
Like, I know I've been in situations where my anxiety has gotten the best of me and it hasn't turned out well.
Yes. Well, yeah.
So the text then kind of throws this curveball, which I found really interesting. They call it the boo factor.
Interesting.
And this is where things get a little out there.
Okay.
It basically suggests that the world is like someone trying to scare us all the time, just to see how we react.
Like a cosmic game of hide and seek.
Haha. Yeah, kind of. I know it sounds kind of out there, but hear me out. What if, instead of seeing challenges as these threats, we see them as opportunities to test our courage? Almost like a game, like you're saying.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think what the text is getting at is it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
You know, if you can look at a challenge as a test, not a threat, you approach it with a totally different mindset. I mean, maybe you even start to look forward to those boo moments, you know, as chances to kind of prove yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Instead of like shrinking back, you're kind of stepping up to the challenge and kind of flexing your courage muscles, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what the text is getting at.
Yeah,
That facing our fears, not avoiding them, that's how we develop true courage.
that makes sense. So where do we see this boo factor playing out in everyday life?
Well, I think about it this way. Like, what are the situations that kind of trigger your fear response?
Yeah.
Maybe it's public speaking or, you know, asking someone out on a date or negotiating a raise.
Right.
I mean, what if you looked at those moments, reframed them as these boo moments,
Yeah.
opportunities to really test your courage, to step outside your comfort zone?
So instead of being like caught up in the fear, you're focusing on the potential for growth and learning, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty powerful shift.
Yeah. And I think the text is arguing that this shift can kind of ripple out into other areas of your life too.
Oh, interesting.
When we start to face our fears in one area, it gives us this confidence to tackle challenges in other areas as well.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've got don't let fear control you and the boo factor. What's the next kind of gem that this text throws our way?
It's a story. It's the tale of the ghost that disappears.
Oh.
Are you familiar with this? This is a little bit of folklore.
Yeah, fill me in. I love ghost stories.
Okay, so the story goes like this. When you encounter a ghost, you don't run away, because running only empowers it. Instead, you walk towards the ghost, and poof, it vanishes.
Oh, wow. That's like the classic horror movie trope. Like, whatever you do, don't turn your back on the monster.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the text is using this imagery, you know, to show how we often react to our own fears and anxieties.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we try to ignore them, push them down, distract ourselves from them. But the text is arguing that by avoiding them, we actually give them more power.
So we need to, like, stop running and turn around and confront these fears head on.
That's the idea. What's so interesting is that the text suggests the more we avoid our fears, the more they can manifest in our lives.
Oh, interesting.
It's like we're creating the very thing that we're afraid of.
Like, if you're constantly afraid of getting sick, you start, you know, experiencing these psychosomatic symptoms or something.
Exactly. And I think that's where mindfulness comes in. You know, instead of pushing away those difficult feelings, can you kind of sit with them, observe them without judgment?
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's how you kind of start to walk towards the ghost, like the text suggests.
That's a powerful image. So instead of letting fear kind of fester in the shadows, you're shining a light on it, bringing it out into the open.
Exactly. And the text suggests that when we do that, when we face our fears directly, they often lose their power over us.
Right. That makes sense. It's like shining a light on the monster in the closet and realizing it was just a pile of laundry.
I love that. Yeah. And this leads to an even deeper concept that the text explores, and that is the illusion of separation.
Okay, this sounds intriguing.
Yeah. The text basically argues that a lot of our fear and anxiety stems from this fundamental misconception that we are separate from the world around us.
Mm.
You know, we see ourselves as these isolated individuals, disconnected from everything and everyone else.
Yeah, I think that feeling of isolation definitely fuels a lot of fear and insecurity, right?
Yeah, totally. And the text kind of challenges that perception. And it uses a simple analogy, but it's powerful. You know, it uses the analogy of a coin to illustrate this interconnectedness of all things.
Okay, I'm all ears. How does a coin relate to our fears?
Oh, just like a coin has two sides, heads and tails, that are inseparable, the text argues that self and other are also part of the same unified reality.
So it's saying that, like, my sense of being a separate me is actually an illusion. That's a pretty big concept.
It's a radical idea, but it's also incredibly liberating. Think about it this way. If you're inherently connected to everything and everyone around you, then where does your fear of being alone or rejected really come from?
That's a really interesting point. It's like our fear is based on this false premise, you know?
Exactly, yeah. And the text suggests that when we start to really understand this interconnectedness, that fear can begin to dissolve. You know, it's no longer me against the world, but me as part of the world.
Okay, I'm really starting to get this. So if we're all connected in this way, what does that mean for how we approach life? You know, especially those situations that trigger our fear.
That's where the text introduces this, final and perhaps most mind-bending concept of the cosmic dance.
Ooh, tell me more about this cosmic dance. I'm really curious.
All right, so imagine this. The text describes this idea of cosmic harmony, where our inner experiences in the outer world are all part of the same interconnected dance, It's not about our individual egos kind of controlling the universe. It's about recognizing that we're all participating in this larger unfolding.
So instead of feeling like we're like separate entities battling against the world, we're more like part of something much larger and more interconnected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we're all dancers in this grand cosmic ballet.
Yeah.
And every step we take, every choice we make is part of this larger choreography.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. It really makes you wonder, if we could really grasp this idea of interconnectedness, this cosmic dance, how would it change our lives?
Yeah.
Like how would it impact the way we approach, challenges and relationships and even our sense of purpose?
Those are such good questions.
Yeah.
And, I think those are the questions that this text really wants us to grapple with.
Yeah. This is a lot to digest, but I'm already starting to see how these ideas could be like real game changers when it comes to, facing my fears.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there more to unpack with this whole like cosmic dance idea?
Definitely. We've only just begun to explore the implications of this idea and how it can help us navigate life with more courage and less fear. Let's dive deeper into that.
Okay, let's do it.
This whole cosmic dance metaphor, it's really resonating with me. But I gotta say, it's a little abstract,
Yeah.
Can you help me understand how this applies to like everyday life?
Yeah.
I mean, does this mean I have like less free will than I thought?
That's a great question. I think what's so fascinating about this concept is that it doesn't negate free will.
Okay.
It actually expands our understanding of it. It's not about some kind of, predetermined fate or destiny. It's more about recognizing that our choices, our actions, they're part of this larger interconnected web.
I see what you're saying. Okay. It's like, instead of just thinking about like the immediate consequences of my actions, I also need to think about the ripple effect, right?
Exactly.
Like how they might impact the larger dance.
Exactly. And, the text isn't suggesting we like overthink every little thing or become paralyzed by indecision or anything like that.
Right.
It's more about cultivating this awareness
Okay.
of how we're participating in this larger unfolding.
That makes sense. So how does this awareness help us deal with fear?
Well, think about it this way. When we're caught up in fear, we tend to focus on ourselves, our anxieties, our perceived limitations.
Right.
But when we shift our perspective, and recognize that we're actually part of this larger cosmic dance, it helps us detach from those fears and see things from this broader perspective.
Right. It's like zooming out and seeing the bigger picture, right?
Yes.
Instead of getting fixated on one small, scary detail, you see how it fits into the whole tapestry.
Exactly. And the text suggests that this shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating because it allows us to see our fears as temporary and transient, not as defining aspects of our identity.
So instead of, being consumed by that fear, you're observing it, almost like a passing wave in the ocean.
Exactly. And that observation, that detachment can really help us respond to fear with more courage and wisdom.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this all ties together now.
Yeah.
We've got don't let fear control you, the boo factor as a challenge to our courage, the ghost that disappears when we face it, the illusion of separation that fuels our fears, and then this concept of the cosmic dance that connects us all.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot.
It is a lot, but the beauty of it is that these ideas, they all kind of reinforce each other. They offer this multifaceted approach to understanding and overcoming fear.
And it's not just about, conquering fear, is it?
Right.
It's about transforming our relationship with it.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that fear is a natural part of the human experience. It's there to protect us, to alert us to danger.
Right.
But it's not meant to rule our lives.
So instead of seeing fear as the enemy, we can see it as a teacher, maybe even a guide, a dance partner.
Yeah, I love that. It's like fear is inviting us to step onto the dance floor of life and learn some new moves. And just like with any dance, there will be times when we're, gracefully gliding across the floor and other times when we're tripping and stumbling. But the key is to keep dancing.
Absolutely. Embrace the missteps.
Right.
Learn from them. And use them to refine your moves. Because ultimately, it's not about perfection. It's about the journey.
And the joy of moving to the music. I think that's something we often forget, when we're caught up in our fears.
Yeah.
The sheer joy of being alive, of participating in this cosmic dance.
That's so true. If you're listening to this, I really encourage you to ask yourself that question. What kind of dance are you creating with your life? What music moves you? What steps bring you joy? And what kind of impact do you want to have on the world around you?
It's a question worth pondering, and remember, you don't have to have all the answers right now. Just keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep dancing.
Because on the other side of fear, there's a whole world of possibility waiting to be discovered.
That's a perfect note to end on. So until next time, keep diving deep, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep dancing your heart out. It really does make you think, doesn't it? What kind of music am I moving to?
Yeah.
What kind of rhythm and flow am I bringing to this cosmic dance floor?
That's a powerful question because it shifts the focus from, fear to intention. Instead of just reacting to those boo moments,
Right.
You're consciously choosing what kind of energy you want to bring to the world.
So it's not just about avoiding the negative, but also about actively creating the positive.
Yeah.
What kind of impact do I want to make? What kind of story do I want to tell?
Exactly. You're the choreographer of your own dance.
Yeah.
You get to choose the steps, the tempo, the overall feel.
And just like with any dance, there will be times when you're gracefully gliding across the floor.
Yeah.
And other times when you're, tripping and stumbling.
Yeah.
But the important thing is to keep dancing.
Absolutely. Embrace the missteps,
Well.
learn from them, and use them to refine your moves. Because ultimately, it's not about perfection.
Right.
It's about the journey.
It's about the journey and the joy of, moving to the music. I think that's something we forget sometimes when we're so caught up in our fears.
Yeah.
That sheer joy of being alive and participating in this cosmic dance.
It's so true. And, if you're listening to this right now, I really encourage you to ask yourself this question. What kind of dance are you creating with your life? What music moves you? What steps bring you joy? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world around you?
Yeah, it's a question worth pondering. And remember, you don't need to have all the answers. Just keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep dancing.
That's it.
And on that note, that's going to do it for this deep dive. So until next time, keep diving deep, keep questioning, and most importantly,